Hello there, and welcome back to the Four Pillars Business Channel. I am back on pillar number 1, and today I'm going to be discussing the market and general trends for 2023. We're going to start with looking at the general events that happened in 2023 that will have had an impact on world and United States markets. The biggest factor of 2023 was that the Ukraine war was still happening. This is the interactive map the 1st of January. If we go down to December, at the end of January, it's about the same. Russia and Ukraine are at a pretty much stalemate. Nothing's really happened to and fro, and there's been a lot of bloodshed, but there's no end of sight to the war. One thing that happened earlier in the year was we had a spy balloon that flew across North America. It was shot down in the Atlantic Ocean, but it definitely made us look up in our skies and also possibly could have triggered another war, which would have proved more instability throughout the world. In 2023, there were the GOP primary, in which there were the many presidential candidates on the Republican side still competing for the nomination to become the next president of the United States. However, throughout this lineup, the more likely lineup is a Biden and Trump rematch. I remember back when Trump was first elected in 2016, the markets took a dip, and then after a few days, they went back up again. Honestly, we don't know what's really going to happen. I'd say they're at neck and neck. 2024 is going to be a wild year. There's going to be a lot of wild cards coming out from the US political spectrum. Who knows what's going to happen? The death of one of these candidates could be quite catastrophic. Wait and see. I want to moving on to the general US markets. The Nasdaq has had ups and downs throughout the year, starting off at $60 and going down to 56, so pretty stable. But the S&P 500 has gone up throughout the year, so it would have been a good year to be an investor in certain stocks. I want to shift attention to Bitcoin. Bitcoin has started off at about 22,000 and has gone up to about 42,000. So being an investor in Bitcoin, although a big gamble, would have paid off quite well. Within Canada, I have been paying attention to the changes in the regulatory environment. Certain Bitcoin companies have opted to stay in Canada. Some have left. Some have experienced punitive actions for not being compliant. And the Canadian Securities Administrators have listed all of the trading platforms that are allowed to do business in Canada. Now listed here, which I will post a link in the description. There are some over here that are banned. It really puzzles me because cryptocurrency had started off as this decentralized and unregulated, outside of the scope of traditional markets, but now they're being forced in and being regulated. As a result, Binance called it quits in Canada. I last year did apply for a job with Binance. I wasn't well qualified, but I applied anyway. I didn't get it, but I would have probably lost my job if I did get it, because they had decided to leave Canada, which is very unfortunate. And they here cited down here, there was new guidance, and having to meet the requirements wasn't deemed very easy. Throughout Canada, we've also had a lot of new initiatives to try and curb the price of housing. The price of housing is very high. Some say it's immigration. I would argue that it's supply and demand, simple as that. The Canadian government have instituted the underused housing tax scheme, in which if you meet your entity meets certain criteria, they have to file a tax return. Some, not many, would have to pay tax of 1% of the value of the property. BC have been doing it for a few years, but right now, if you meet the empty homes tax parameters, it's 3% of the property's assessed value. That's a really high amount of tax. Lastly, I'm going to finish off with a consumer trend, and that is the price of fuel. I believe the price of fuel is integral to our everyday lives. It's definitely a part of the cost of every product that we purchase, whether it be the manufacture or the transport of any product. It all just adds in. So when the price of fuel goes up, the price of goods have to go up. Generally, it's been quite stable. Had got to quite highs, $1.70. That was equivalent to what New Zealand was a few years ago, adjusting for inflation. But now it's gone down to $1.45 for Christmas. And right now at the pumps, I saw it at $1.19. That was the cheapest I saw it the other day. Well, thanks for this for tuning into my market update. If you have any suggestions, feel free to reach out. I'll probably try and do a quarterly update in April. Other than that, thank you, and have a good rest of the week.